All right, we are live. I am Keith Niebuhr with Gators Online. That is Corey Bender, also of Gators Online. And we're going to break down today's big recruiting news. Tae'shaun Gelsey, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a three-star tight end slash athlete hybrid, I guess you could say, has committed to the Florida Gators. He's from Jacksonville, Riverside. This is a recruitment that Corey sort of owned all the way through from start to finish. It wasn't a surprise that he committed, although, there was some optimism in New Orleans last night. Tulane thought that they had presented a strong case. Corey, we'll get into that in a minute. They recruited him more as a receiver type, but he is going to be a Florida Gator. Kind of an under-the-radar recruitment, but Florida has been high on him for a while. So, Corey, just your initial thoughts on Florida landing the number 41 tight end in the country for the On3 industry rankings, Tae'shaun Gelsey. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I like him a lot, man. I think he's a kid that can ultimately rise in the rankings. I know he's a kid that played receiver in high school. He'll be transitioning to tight end. I think maybe that's part of it too. Like you said, he was viewed as a receiver before, but when you kind of consider where his future is going to be, man, I think he has a very high ceiling, high points the ball very well, a good red zone threat. A guy could just really attack the ball at its highest point. And you watch this film, man, there are several plays where he's going up over not only just one defender, two or three at a time. There's times where Riverside's quarterback's rolling out and he just throws it downfield to get rid of the ball. He has that much confidence in Gelsey just going up over several guys to go get it. So I think it's a guy who's going to keep getting better and better. And I think, once he gets more eyes on him as far as a full-time tight end prospect, I think he's a guy who could rise in the rankings. I definitely like this pickup for Florida.
Yeah, again, not an incredibly highly ranked guy. Corey, what height and weight on Tae'shaun Gelsey? We got him at, let me make sure I have this right. He is 6'4", 210, so he's going to grow. So he's going to be a guy that's playing at 6'4", 240 in that range. Right now, more of a pass catcher than a blocker. Have you seen anything on his film, though, that makes you think he could be an effective inline blocker, or was there not enough on that tape?
Yeah, not as much, man. I mean, he's a full-time receiver in high school. They move him all over the place. I mean, he's in the slot, and he's a big kid. I saw a recent picture of him, though. You can tell, like you said, Keith, play around 240. You can tell his frame is going to expand real nicely. But, yeah, and I think that's why, like, Keith, I think you reported early on, Florida liked him as an athlete, too, kind of a tight end slash athlete. So I think it's a guy they plan just utilizing, moving him all around the offense. But like you said, he's kind of more of a pass catcher right now.
Yeah, one of the complaints of fans or concerns, I guess, is, hey, we, Florida, as a program, going to have some big-time tall pass catchers. And that's why Florida works so hard to try to get Jeremiah Smith the last cycle. Unsuccessfully, he ended up signing with Ohio State as a five-star receiver. But in this cycle, you now just in the past week have landed 6'4", 210-pound Tae'shaun Gelsey. Again, a guy that can, do a bunch of different things as a tight end. And then just a few days ago, you landed 6'3.5", 6'4" receiver Joshua Moore out of South Florida, Pembroke Pines, West Broward High School. And so he's a true receiver. So you now have these two big targets that you're going to be putting in the offense and giving to DJ Lagway next year, and whoever is the starting quarterback after DJ Lagway, maybe Will Griffin, maybe somebody else. And so now you can attack the outside a little bit more from a height perspective, but then also these are also two guys that you can take across the middle, and they're going to present some challenges to defensive backs, to linebackers as well. So big guys that can high point the ball, makes it difficult for DBs. Big guys that are probably going to both be 6'4", 225 plus, that make it hard for even linebackers to stay with and then tackle as well. So interesting two pickups for the Florida Gators. Corey, they now have two tight ends committed. Both of them have come just in the last couple of weeks. Makai or Micah Jones, I don't know how you pronounce it. I've never gotten official clarification on that.
I think it's Micah. I've screwed it up. I think it's Micah. Yeah.
Okay. He committed on June 21st, and now you have Tae'shaun Gelsey. So that's two tight ends. We've heard Florida may not entirely be done. They're going to continue recruiting guys if there's a big fish out there that they like. And when we say big fish, we don't necessarily mean ranking. I mean big fish on their board. And one guy we continue to keep an eye on is Hollis Davidson out of the state of Georgia, one-time Auburn commit, and he's like 6'6", and they like him a lot. And we've been told, hey, they're probably going to keep recruiting him. Now, these things are fluid. There's always a fluidity to recruiting, obviously. It could change any day. But right now, they continue to recruit him. He could end up back at Auburn. FSU is high on him as well. Georgia is high on him as well. There's a lot of, I would say the most chatter right now is with Hollis Davidson and FSU. But Corey, do you like what Florida's done at the tight end position this cycle? I mean, these are not 4-star guys like last year with Amir Jackson, but 3-star guys that Florida seems to like an awful lot. Just your thoughts on these two tight end pickups.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good what you mentioned too, as far as big fish. Florida has their own board, and Micah Jones was a guy. I think it might have been the first tight end they offered this cycle before maybe some of the 5-star guys. So it's a guy they clearly liked, and he's more of the well-rounded type, very aggressive. I think another guy, I don't think as high as the ceiling as Gelsey, but more of a complete tight end. But he's a guy too, a nice, good frame, about 6'5", fairly fluid in the open field. I definitely thought that was a good pickup. You had some big fish. LSU offered him. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, some other schools were in the mix. And I think Gelsey, I mean, I don't want to compare them to two different prospects, but I like him, man. I think when you look at his offer sheet, I'm not surprised Auburn, Kentucky, some of those guys jumped in the mix for him. But I think overall, as time goes on, I think more schools are probably going to like him. And I think when the senior film comes out, he might be a guy that kind of makes a good move in the rankings. So I'm definitely pleased with what they put together for sure.
Yeah, you're just a homer. Come on, admit it.
Hey, man, I'm a Gelsey fan.
Look, I mean, hey, so I talked to somebody last night that's in that Tulane orbit, right? And just to get some insight, you think, okay, is there any chance he could go to Tulane? Well, he didn't, obviously, but see, these G5 programs, they have to pitch things a different way. So Florida just lost a quarterback, Antoine Hill, to Memphis. Now, it's not the end of the world. He's a developmental player, and they lost him because as much as he loved the idea of being a Florida Gator, he knew that he wanted to play early, and he's looking at it and he's saying, well, DJ Lagway is going to be the starting quarterback in 2025, so I'm going to have to wait. So that was problematic in that recruitment. And that's ultimately why he chose Memphis, because they've got a quarterback that's going to be a 4-year starter, and he can come in, Antoine Hill, and maybe compete for the starting job in January. That was not going to happen in Gainesville. Okay, you can tell him that, but he ain't dumb, right? He's looking at DJ Lagway. So Tulane in pitching to Tae'shaun Gelsey, and we should point out, I believe that was the only other school he officially visited, according if I'm correct here. And they said, hey, you are a true receiver. We as a program are going to get you the ball over and over and over again. You go to Florida, you're going to be a tight end athlete. They're going to have Josh Moore. They're going to have Eugene Wilson, Andy Jean, Aiden Mizell, so it's going to be a little bit harder for you to get the ball. So these things do weigh on a young man and can become part of the decision-making process, or not can be, they are. And so, but I can tell you what Tulane liked about him was that they feel like this is a high-end pass catcher as a big target. Like you said, he can go up and get the ball. And this coming not from one of us. This coming from at another school. He can go up and get the ball. He can make plays. And they feel like he has the ability to be, play at the next level. And you say, okay, well, that's Tulane. Well, listen, guys, for as much as we love these big schools and what they put on the field on Saturday, at a school like Tulane, I don't want to not people are going to take this the wrong way. This is not knocking the evaluators at Florida, Georgia, Alabama, those schools. But at Tulane, you really have to evaluate, because you are not going to get the 4-star and 5-star guys. Okay, you really and truly have to evaluate and hit. Otherwise, you won't lose. And we know that Tulane did beat Southern Cal in a bowl game just a couple years ago. Michael Pratt at quarterback. And Michael Pratt is now, I believe, off to the NFL. So they have done, and by the way, they've had great defensive lines at Tulane as well. And their former D-line coach, Gerald Chapman, is now at the University of Florida. So they have done a great job. That is one of those programs where you look at them and you say, and obviously they have a new coaching staff now, and we don't know if they're going to have the same evaluating success, Corey, that the previous one did. But you look at Tulane and you say, these guys are good evaluators, man. There's just some schools that, there's just some schools. So in that sense, you say, okay, this is a guy that's a pretty good product. And, Florida was involved with several tight ends this cycle, Corey, and they really wanted to take 2. They wanted to take 2 at one point last year, only ended up with 1. This year they feel like they need 2. And maybe these guys are a little bit developmental guys, but aren't most tight ends. You just signed Amir Jackson, and chances are he would be ready to contribute in 2025. And you've got some other guys that'll be veterans that year. So these guys come in 2025, Gelsey and Micah Jones. And by 2026, maybe if all goes as planned, they're contributing. You can't say we have a need for tight end next year, let's go get one now. You have to say we have a need for tight end in 2 to 3 years, let's go get one now. That planning is crucial at tight end, on the offensive line, at quarterback. at probably half your positions, you don't necessarily want a tight end to have to come in unless he's a freak like a Brock Bowers at Georgia and play a ton in his first year, because that probably means you're weak at that position. Because, again, it is a developmental position. These guys, Amir Jackson, Corey, I'm doing all the talking here, he was a receiver in high school. He's transitioning to tight end. So we think he's going to be great at Florida, but he's never had to block before. So there is a transitional period here. So anyway, Corey, any other thoughts on this Florida, just kind of what they've done this cycle and what you think of the tight end room as a whole?
Yeah, no, I think overall, I think too they're different. I think with Micah Jones, I mean, he's definitely a willing blocker, very physical. So I feel like they got two different type of tight ends. You know, Micah Jones, he can catch the ball too. I mean, he's fairly athletic in the open field, but I feel like with Gelsey, you get the real red zone threat, the real pass catcher. Then you get Micah Jones, a guy that Florida's been pursuing for a while, that's more well rounded. And like you said, Keith, you have guys like Arliss Boardingham on the roster. I mean, Hayden Hansen. I mean, you have guys that are going to be playing right away that gives them time to develop. So I think overall you got to be happy. I know, like you said at the top of it, Florida fans are going to look at the stars, but I think if you actually take the time and watch the film, you can see why Florida staff is excited about both these guys.
All right, Corey, Florida, I think right now is about 40th in the team recruiting rankings with 8 commitments. I don't know if it's updated or not. I think it may have, but I'm not sure. But it's going to be a slow move up toward, the top 20. That's just, look, they got a slow start. They went after some big fish, were unsuccessful. They're hoping to put a really good product on the field this year and hope that the NIL money comes rolling in because of it. They could finish strong. But when you're coming off a couple losing seasons in a row as a coaching staff, you realize that you're sort of you're facing a pretty big task here to convince kids. In years 1 and years 2, you can sell that leap of faith trust. It's a little harder now. Now they actually need to see it. A lot of recruits have told us that. However, Florida's still positioned to probably have or potentially have a pretty good July, maybe August too. Corey, the minute somebody commits, the first thing a fan thinks is, okay, that's great. The second thing they think of, all right, who's next? Corey, we always do these articles, and I would encourage to go to gatorsonline.com right now. We've already got one up. 6 candidates that could be the next person to commit. Corey, we've got Tavion Wallace, 4-star linebackers, announcing July 2nd. FSU probably trending there. Vernell Brown Jr. now, or I keep wanting to call him Junior. Vernell Brown III, now a 5-star receiver. He's going to announce sometime in July. Lagonza Hayward's a 4-star safety. He's going to announce in July. Bryce Fitzgerald's a 4-star safety from Miami. July, August. Tae'Shaun Montgomery, 4-star receiver. Sometime this summer, we think he's going to announce. Miles Johnson's an Alabama linebacker commit. We don't think he's solid. You've had him on your who could be next to commit list for a few weeks now. What do you think, Corey? Who's going to be the next to jump in the boat? It's tough.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Like you said, there's a lot of kids we know are going to be deciding this summer, but a lot of them don't have firm dates yet, so it can kind of flip-flop. But I think, man, Vernell Brown comes to mind. I know we both have been talking about him for a while. We don't know exactly what day it's going to be, but I think that's going to be fairly soon. I'm favoring Florida there. Miles Johnson, like you just mentioned, the Alabama linebacker commit, doesn't really speak with Alabama too much anymore, so we're expecting more to be Florida and Ole Miss, but he's been off the radar the last couple of weeks. He said after his Ole Miss visit, which was the week after Florida, that after that he's going to compare to schools, kind of sit back and just kind of then make a final decision. We think right now he's in that decision-making process, so that's another guy we're definitely keeping close tabs on for sure.
Another guy who I didn't mention, and I didn't put him in this article, he's committed to FSU. That's quarterback Tramel Jones. He's been very pro Florida State on Twitter recently, and FSU feels like he's going to stick with them, but we do expect there to be some final resolution with his recruitment sometime in the near future. You got to keep an eye on him too. He's visited Florida 3 times since April. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve. We know his dad is from Stark, Bradford County. You got to go through Waldo, probably get a couple speeding tickets as you're driving through there to get to Stark, where they got that Sonny's, and I know that drive well. And so that's another guy we're keeping on, quarterback Tramel Jones, the FSU quarterback commit. And finally, one more guy, Corey, I want to mention. He is committed to Florida, but we're also tracking him, and that's Jalen Wiggins, the 4-star edge / defensive lineman. Florida likes him at edge. Other schools like him at maybe strong side end or inside. But he's committed to Florida. He committed to Florida, I believe, it was earlier this year. I want to say January possibly. Excellent student, early enrollee, took official visits also to Stanford and Florida State. Florida State was last weekend. They had a huge official visit weekend. The Noles have some momentum. I know the Gator fans don't want to hear this, but they have some recruiting momentum right now. He is going to sit down with his folks this weekend. figure it all out and make a final decision. Probably it could be this weekend or sometime next week. I do feel like he is going to stick with Florida, but it's also something we're tracking. Corey, right now, only 8 commitments. And we're just going to do one more topic here and we'll get everybody going. We wanted to focus on Tae'shaun Gelsey, but there's a couple position groups, Corey, where a lot of them, we feel like, hey, they're in pretty good shape to do well here. But offensive line and defensive line, we're starting to look at the boards and it feels like there's going to have to be some new names coming, Corey, because they seem like they're behind on some guys, aren't going to get some other guys. Just general thoughts on Florida's O-line and D-line recruiting right now, where it could be headed. I know I'm putting you on the spot there.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, and I think all along, too, we mentioned with O-line recruiting, it wasn't going to be the biggest class. They're still going to sign a few, but I think they're going to hit the portal pretty good. But still, right now, no offensive line commits. Enoch Wagner, I knew he reclassified, so he was committed. So obviously, he's not in the class anymore. He's at Florida, but I think overall, yeah, they're going to have to hand out some new offers. I went through the whole board the other day. Tavares Dice came to mind. They offered a kid out in Germany who's more of a developmental guy. I've been keeping up with him. He said he wants to take an OV in the fall, so talks to Florida. But those are only 2 realistic guys that I could really find in the list to have offers. Teron Hedrick was another one that was going to OV a few weeks ago, didn't do it. And then I asked him right after, are you going to reschedule it? He said no. So it's going to be interesting. I think obviously that's the one position group they have some work to do.
Corey, on the defensive line, there's one guy committed, Jeremiah McLeod. They're still working hard on Jarquez Carter out of Newberry, right down the road, man. He's 15 minutes from UF, but they are not trending, at least publicly right now. He told the Miami sites last weekend that he had a Final Four of Penn State, Ohio State, UCF, and Miami. And I talked to his coach. His coach said, "Oh no, Florida's in there. Florida's still in there." He's going to announce. I think it's July 18th. Was that the date?
I think 18th or 19th, one of the 2 days. Yeah.
Okay. He's going to announce. What do you think about Florida's chances on him? You just talked to him the other day. You're the only person in the market that's interviewed him in the last couple of weeks.
I asked him straight up about him. I said, Florida outside looking in, and he said the same thing back to me. He says the schools there are above Florida. So he worded it, there was no confusion with it. So he said the main thing with Florida is he wants to see more activity from the D-line group as far as getting upfield, being more active as far as pursuing the quarterback. Problem is we won't know that till the fall. So I think right now with Florida, if he's telling the truth about it, they're going to have to try to flip him down the line. Right now 4 schools are ahead of them. He said UCF and Florida are tied, but they're at the back end. So we'll see how. But yeah, like you said, we're going to have to wait till the fall unless he's kind of playing us for a joke here.
Yeah. Well, one thing we've learned is once a guy commits to another school, it was never over even 10, 15, 20 years ago. But now it's really never over until the very end. So as fans and as media people, we're going to be like, oh, God, they lost another one here or there. But as a staff, Florida's going to keep pushing on guys, keep the foot on the gas, and try to work on some guys late in the cycle. Hope they have a good season, all that stuff.
I think if he commits to Miami or another school too, I think, like you said, Keith, with being proximity so close, he's a guy that we'll probably see show up on a random weekday for a practice, and I think they'll be in the mix for it. But yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think Florida definitely is still in it, but I don't think they'll win out. We'll see though.
All right, we got a special offer for everybody watching just on YouTube. Look below me here. If you use the code UF1, you get 2 months of Gators Online for only $1. Normally it's a 1 month for $1, but it's still a pretty good deal. Look, check it out. We just wrapped up official visit season, but July, we're transitioning in July here. That's when the team info starts picking up, the team intel. Then start of spring practice, obviously, is coming. And then you've got that game August 31st versus Miami at the Swamp. So why not jump in right now? You're still going to get great recruiting insight. And now, in addition to that, over the next couple of months, the team starts taking priority on the site. And there's going to be, there's a lot of eyes on this team right now, for better or for worse. Everybody in the country is watching the Florida Gators. So why not stay ahead of your friends with the information? Again, use the code UF1 to get 2 months of access to Gators Online for only $1. Corey, wrap it up. Well, let's do final thoughts. Tae'Shaun Gelsey's a Gator. For anybody that missed the first part, in 20 seconds, is this a good pickup for the Florida Gators?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a guy that they need guys in the red zone with size who can really go up and win those one-on-one battles. I think that's the best trait that I saw in film. Also, he's a wide receiver being a converted tight end. He's a guy who can move in the open field. Almost 1,000 yards last year with 9 touchdowns as a big wide receiver. So you translate that to tight end against linebackers and safeties. You have to be excited about the potential. So I think overall, if you're a Florida fan, you watch this film, I think you'll be excited with what you see.
All right. I'm getting fidgety here. That means it's time to go. For Corey Bender, I am Keith Niebuhr. We're both with Gators Online. We appreciate everybody stopping by. We appreciate all the support. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Go check out Gators Online. Take care. Take advantage of this great deal. And also spread the word. Let everybody know about us. We're part of the On3 network. Our YouTube page has exploded. Our site subscriptions have exploded. And it's all because of you. So everybody take care. Thank you so much, Corey. You have a good one, man.
You too, man.